Okay. Oh, there we are. That's fine. Okay, so that's working.
We're on the opposite side.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's, yeah, I hope you can cope with that. Okay, now that starts. Okay, so we're live now. Wait a second, I'm going to go on Facebook too now. There we go. Okay, that's perfect. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So let's just give me 1 minute and see if we are really properly live now, which I think we are. Just hang on. Just make sure everything's fine here. And yes, we are. Okay, we are live.
You think we're not just talking to ourselves. You think we're actually talking to your followers, are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So anyway, we're both on YouTube and Facebook. And as you know, David and I have had a wonderful journey to Reading.
Yeah.
Very exciting one. And we've been following the red-tailed hawk there, thanks to all the locals there and Terri. So we had a great time. We've just returned.
Yeah,
actually.
we said our goodbyes to the red tail on the 4th of July,
Yes.
which was Thursday night. And we spent all day, 14 hours or whatever it was, 12 hours, driving home on the Friday.
That's correct.
And now I know I've spent the Saturday and Sunday trying to catch up on things, and you've been doing the same. But you have also been following up with a live broadcast yesterday with Terri.
Yeah, that's right. We had a live broadcast yesterday afternoon, and Terri was actually reporting. And if you haven't seen that stream, please look at. No, I'm just talking to everyone, not only to you, David.
Okay.
I'm just saying, have a look at that live stream because Terri was already reporting there that she was desperately looking for Tuffy. And there were some suggestions, well, why don't you go and look underneath the tree and so on. And so Terri did. And this morning I actually received a message from her stating that, after quite some search, she did in the vicinity of the nest find some feathers, right? Some red-tailed feathers. They were from young. She did go to Russ Weatherby, who is the local biologist there of the park, and he confirmed that it is a young red-tail. So what we believe, and this is just the high probability that we know from what Terri has reported and what we are seeing, there's unfortunately a high probability that this was indeed the red-tailed hawk.
Yeah, this is what we always fear on something like this. I mean, we jumped in with the expectation that this was a very unique biological event.
Right.
Two eagles, a pair of eagles raising two eaglets, but then having presumably caught some food for them, they then turned around and used that food and nourished them and gave them food, and that food piece was a baby red-tailed hawk, which would have been eaten, but probably it made the right begging calls, or the shape of its beak inhibited the eagle's tearing off its head, and so they raised that eagle, and that's when we got notified by Terri that maybe we should come down and photograph it. And we went down, and always every day you go out to look at it and you wonder, has normal biology taken its place? Because the eagles do not normally rear red-tailed hawks.
Right, and David, I think if you could, I mean, this is still speculation, of course. Sure. Unfortunately, there's a high probability. We agree on that, right? From what Terri has said, from what we hear from Russ Weatherby, but maybe you could allude a little bit to what you know from your experience, what actually happens once red-tails fledge. Maybe first of all, you could explain from your observation whether you think Tuffy was ready to fledge. That's the first point. And the second is, when, from your experience, what we know when red-tails actually fledge, how long do they come back to the nest? Do they always do that, and so on?
Well, first off, I've spent much of my life dealing with bald eagles. I did, as a kid, rear some red-tailed hawks. So I'm not as an expert on red-tails, but as we follow that other red-tail where 3 eaglets in Victoria raised, the parents raised not only 3 eaglets, but they also raised a baby red-tail. There, we kind of followed the whole thing almost to conclusion. In that case, the one in Sydney, that bird, that hawklet, actually fledged on its own. And we saw what would be, I think, the full normal development of that young red tail. Okay. And by that I mean the feathers fully grow out. They're what you call hard pinned. And that applies to the eaglet when its feathers are hard pinned, which is about the 10th week. The feathers are not only finished growing, but the bird kind of seals it off, sucks back all the nutrients that would have produced that big feather, and then when it seals it off, that feather is from that moment on dead.
Right.
And the same thing happens with red tails. When we left on Thursday night, my thought was that bird was still a week at least from fledging. The feathers were not hard pinned yet, meaning they were still growing, and the bird should not yet have left the nest. So when we got home here and found out that indeed the bird did leave the nest a day later, I was a bit worried. Did it get knocked out of the nest by one of the big eaglets just lifting a wing? Was it running around? Because red tails are quite active.
Right.
And that little bird, when we watched it, many times ran across the nest, ran out onto the end of a nearby limb. He only has to make one bad foot judgment, and down he goes. And that was a worry. Every time I saw him run across the nest, you think, oh my God, take it easy, fella, because you're not capable of making it back up. Your feathers are not yet fully grown.
And then there were gusts of wind, right?
And indeed, there were a lot of gusts of wind, and you never quite know when a gust of wind is going to be in one little local area versus another. And it could have just flicked his wing and he lost his balance, made a bad footing, and down he went. He could have been knocked off by one of the eaglets just raising its wing. Either of those are the likely options. It's not likely he was predated by his two big siblings, semi-siblings, the two big eaglets. If he died in the nest, they would have been probably seen eating him.
Right. That would have been very clear. Right?
It would have been pretty clear.
That's a good point.
And
that's a good point.
Then, the other concluding thing that Terri and Dave, another Dave, her husband Dave, went below the nest, and apparently they found some feathers, not only confirmed as red tail feathers, but were still in the pin feather state, meaning that they were still developing their growth length. They had not fully grown full length and sealed off and become kind of dead entities. So that's would have put it in the same category as the eaglet the hawklet that we left when we left on Thursday night. So it's pretty likely, and it was confirmed by Wes, the biologist with the park, that the feathers that Dave and Terri found were red tail feathers. So it's not conclusive, but half of biology is we don't know if the Sydney bird eventually survived.
Yeah, we don't know.
We know that it flew around the area for 10, 12 days learning. We kind of taught it how to hunt and catch.
No, you did.
I did. I caught mice for it. I caught voles for it. We caught roadkills, put them out in the forest. It came down and found them. It was a kind of a wonderful relationship where it could do these things. This bird was not yet to that stage. Unfortunately, it was another week from being where it would have normally left the nest.
I'm just going to throw in some questions. Gentleman Ghost wants to know, was the body found at the foot of the tree? So no body as such was found, but feathers, ruffled feathers were found.
Okay.
That's what we know. And Jackie L, did Tuffy still have white down his head? Did he have at least 5 black bands on his tail?
Well, his tail wasn't fully grown yet, and so it still has the little tufts on the end of it. And so I guess if you re-look at the wonderful photos you have of the bird flying, you'll pretty precisely see it, because you got wonderful footage of it in those last couple of days.
Fortunately.
And they just weren't fully grown. That's all, and the blood had not been reabsorbed into the body and sealed off. It had not become hard pinned. And that's apparently the way Wes, the biologist there, also defined the feathers that he saw. So, I mean, we don't know what happened, but...
And we'll never know, because,
we probably won't.
Yeah, probably we'll never know unless it miraculously returns, but I believe it's going to be a miracle. I mean, that's my own...
Yes, I mean, it was a week from being able to normally fledge. It shouldn't fly back.
Right.
I mean, who would have been feeding it? I mean, it's not likely been fed for a week, or now it's the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It has not been fed for 4 days. So it's 4 days closer to being full-grown wings, but still another 3 or 4 or 5 days before they would have been fully grown. So I don't think there's much likelihood of the bird having left the nest, now having survived. I mean, it's just, you want it to. Their wing feathers are already hard pinned, and they eventually, over the next 2 or 3 days, develop enough strength that they can fly a little bit. This bird, unfortunately, left the nest before those feathers were fully grown.
I think your internet's too slow. We're offline, David.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. Yeah. I'm not sure why this is why it's doing that, but it went offline. And now it's coming back. What a pity. There's something wrong with the stream. It's coming back now. 393. It was buffering, and it lost complete. I don't know why it did that. It says offline here. Wait a second. I'm just going to try it, David, and just get this reconnected.
So
1 second. Come on. There we are. Okay, we see.
So I'm going to make the apology. Christian came over to my house, and my system is not as powerful as his. I had just come from the doctors for my operation, and he said, "No, I'll come to your place." And we're using my internet system, and it's apparently not as powerful.
Yeah, we are back now. So I apologize for that. We're really trying our best. This was incredibly spontaneous. I just drove over to David's house. I assume that he's technically, absolutely up to date.
Oh, certainly. that some of your readers don't realize, but we're a bilingual country, and in the other side of the country, in the French side, that's called bullshit.
Okay, I'm just getting a lot of messages from Kit, Rosanna, and also from Osprey Mommy. Of course, we are back online. So anyway, we won't make this too long anyway. This was just an update. Unfortunately, it's not a good update. That's all we can say. I mean, once you get attached. I mean, David and I drove so far down to witness this, so I think we're both attached.
Definitely.
That's all we can say. But I think it would be more than a miracle if Tuffy suddenly appeared again. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
A very unusual event that at least transpired successfully for a couple of weeks, and we don't know what was that fractious thing that happened that caused the bird to leave a couple of days ago. I mean, it should not have left the nest yet, and it did. Did it get knocked off the edge?
Right.
Did it trip, fall? Did it play too hard and bounce, literally? I mean, we saw it very exuberant. It was a very
Or was
healthy
it pushed
bird.
off? Because we've seen that.
We've seen another bird
push it off.
Well, not really push it up, but just lift your wings up.
Right.
And if you just lift your big wing, if you're an eaglet, and you happen to hit a bouncing young red-tailed hawk, he's just going to flick off to the side, and the side means it's 90 feet down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's maybe a sad ending, but it's just the way it has to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing again. Thank you for all the wonderful donors and donations. I did want to say I have started sending out beautiful images of Tuffy yesterday to a lot of you. Some of you I can't reach because I do not have your email. You donated, but I do not have your email, and I recognize some of your names in the chat. Would you please be so kind? Send an email to SassePhoto@gmail.com. Osprey Mama will put the address in. Just send me an email, please. I would love to send you pictures. You very much deserve them. They are really National Geographic quality. I mean,
You had awesome
I mean, they appeared in USA Today and so on. They are very clear, and I would love to send these images to you. So there's one from the 2017 event that we have in Sydney, and one where the hawk jumps over jumps over the eagle. It's a beautiful, very unusual image, and the other one of the whole family. So please. And if anyone wants to donate now, you're very welcome. I'm using this for a good cause to continue the stream. And you're very welcome to donate, and I will also send you pictures, so it's never too late. That's just, I'm generous. It's very generous if you do, and if you don't, that's also fine. Just give a thumbs up and we're happy. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, and that's basically it. I don't know if you want famous last words, David. Also.
Well, what was really quite wondrous about our whole experience of going south to the Reading area, Terri Lillier,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I always get my tongue miswrapped around, and I shouldn't, because I did the forward.
Lewiller, I think. Lewiller. I think I Lewiller.
I did the forward for the book she wrote. She has a wonderful database that she's starting to develop, and she's got about 19 nests now in and around the Reading area. So that part of Northern California, which is really around Mount Shasta, has a lot of eagles. And in the little lake that we were just at, where it had 2 eagles, but it had 19 pairs of osprey on this one lake. It was a it was a very, very productive lake. When we went out on the boat with Dave and Terri, looking down in the water, it was just streams of fish going by. So
it's a beautiful area. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's an absolutely wonderful area.
The area is doing incredibly well. It did suffer a huge forest fire, but forest fires are natural entities.
Well, they are.
They go through areas. In fact, the more frequently they go through, the better, because it doesn't do as much damage. What happens is human beings often interfere and prevent forest fires, and what builds up is the amount of fuel, the amount of dry, available foliage, and that accumulates and accumulates, and then when a fire does flash through, it burns much hotter and does more damage. But it's a beautiful area, and it has a lot of wildlife, and apparently, according to Terri, or it was Wes, they pointed out that near where they found the red-tailed hawk feathers was a pile of bear dung. So it could be that the bear found the dead bird when it hit the ground and also ate it. Lots of wildlife in Northern California. Very productive area. There we are. So I thank you for following the tale of this interesting nest.
Absolutely, a marvelous nest, a very unique one. And please tell us if you find one. We'll be on our way. We'll pack straight away. We'll be on our way, broadcasting live from your next red-tail.
And I hopefully will have a new need. And so
David will be running faster than ever. I'll have new technology again to make it even better for you. That's going to be it.
All right.